Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WOWBIZ Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now.
Welcome back to WOWBIZ Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker, and you know, there's a proliferation across the entire state of Nebraska of life coaches. Life coaching is a very popular vocation. Almost everybody I know has a coach, and we want to talk to a life coach today as he makes the critical decision to move forward in his career and really embrace the life coaching profession. Ed Green, thank you so much for visiting with.
It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for talking to me about what I consider a mysterious and very attractive profession, but I don't think I fully understand it, okay?
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about now, when did you first say to yourself, I think I want to be a life coach, you know?
Well,
when did that first occur to you?
I remember back when I was in college,
Yeah.
and there was a family that lived next door to us. Anyway, the young girl was in debate, and she wasn't getting the results that she wanted.
Okay.
I'll make a long story short, I'd interact with her, and one day I come home and she's standing there with a big trophy in her hand. And I thought, wow, I felt like I had an impact on that person's life and felt good.
Okay, so you actually did make suggestions and kind of work with her to improve her performance and her confidence?
Yes, gave her ideas on how to be more persuasive.
You missed that part,
yes.
So I wanted to really fill that in.
Sure.
Now, so it gave you a sense of course, personal pride, and maybe a little more focus on what you could become. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So now here you are, years later,
yes,
and you're kind of making a decision to go forward in that regard. Why now? And what's welled up inside of you to kind of say, I got to? You called me 5-6 weeks ago and said, I'm going to go ahead and be a life coach.
Absolutely.
What triggered all
this? Made a decision.
Yeah.
I've always worked to make a living.
Yeah.
That's been the focus. And I've always helped people a lot throughout my life. In fact, I've been a life coach on a part-time basis.
Kind of an informal basis.
Informal basis.
Giving out what? Basically advice, just helping people with their problems.
Helping people with their problems.
Okay.
And I've decided that I want the rest of my life be focused on what I love to do.
Sure.
And that's helping people to grow, and that would be, as a life coach, I could help people do that.
Sure. And you become increasingly confident that you actually know enough to really help people of all sorts kind of move forward in their careers.
Absolutely. I've helped people do that informally.
Yeah. You know, one of the main things that I see myself and other people deal with is fear. Fear is a huge issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Whether it's dealing with setbacks in your career.
Sure.
Maybe sacrificing something over here so that you can go ahead and do something over here.
Giving something up now.
That's tough.
Yes.
Everybody says, I want to do this, I want to do that, but what are you willing to give up to get there?
Absolutely.
That becomes a big deal. So tell me what your insight is about fear and how you help people embrace it or deal with it or realize that it's illusory, whatever you think.
We all have fear.
Yeah.
It's I had fear today coming on this show.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, what will Lynn ask me and everything? But basically, fear is of the unknown.
Yeah.
And when we step out to do something new, even if we love what we're doing, what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It's that sense of, will this be successful? Will I be able to make it?
Yeah. So then fear of failure is really what you're kind of pointing me at right there.
Fear of failure.
Yeah. So that's such a big thing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's also a fear of letting go of the life that we know.
Ed, talking about fear, that's a deep subject. How do you help people resolve it? Do you help them, do visualizations or affirmations or things like that? How do you do that?
I found that the most important thing is to directly ask questions about it.
Yeah.
To get that fear out in the open.
So talking about it is helpful?
Talking about it.
Yeah.
And asking questions based on answers they give. Well, what causes that?
Okay.
And really,
so you're trying to establish a causal relationship.
Absolutely.
When this happens, it triggers this.
Yes.
Now why would somebody like yourself be any different than what a psychotherapist would do at the same time? What's the difference between those two? It seems like you're getting into some really powerful and heavy stuff.
That's a great question, Lynn. I'm glad you asked that. I was a psychology major, so I know about that world too.
Sure.
And the difference is psychotherapy focuses on problems from the past,
Yeah.
things that have impacted people that goes back to their past.
Yeah.
And life coaching focuses on moving toward the future.
How can it be
some of that.
successful if you don't resolve
Well, you
issues
have
from the
to,
past?
you know, you have to be a little bit of a psychotherapist too.
Yeah.
You have to resolve some issues of the past to be able to move forward.
Yeah, I would think so.
Absolutely.
What about aspirations and what people want to do in the future? Do they?
Sure.
How do you help them determine whether they're realistic, whether they're prepared to actually, move forward, kind of like you're doing in your career right now?
Sure.
How do you handle that?
Well, a lot of people want their lives to be better. They want
Yeah.
to have more money, better relationships. They
Right.
want to look better, be in better health.
Right.
All those different things.
Sure.
But what's important is to get really specific.
Yeah.
And what is it exactly that's most important to you? And I think you have to find something, help them to find the thing that's so important. It almost seems like life or death. They want to change something that badly.
Yeah, because a lot of people get into coaching and they kind of quit early, don't they? I mean, not everybody, but I'm just saying a lot of people don't actually follow through. Is that a problem?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people that like to help people think, oh, I'll be a life coach because I
Right.
like to help people.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to walk somebody through the changes.
And then there's the whole accountability piece, which is, well,
Yes.
you promised me last week you were going to do this and that.
Right.
How you're coming along and those. What happens when somebody says, well, I just didn't do it, I didn't get it
Yes.
done. How does that go? How does that go down?
Well, you have to be willing as a life coach to sometimes fire a client. Even a client who's paying you well.
Yeah. That takes a lot of courage.
It does take some courage.
Yeah. Speaking
Think
about that, I want
yes.
to ask
Yeah.
you one quick question as we kind of wrap up.
Sure.
Life coaching is a great thing. I can see it right now and know you'll do very well. But there is a marketing piece, right? You got to get clients.
Sure, absolutely.
Right. And do all life coaches know how to do that? Is that like a big stumbling block, or what philosophy do you have about,
Sure.
quote, getting new life coaching clients?
My philosophy is that marketing is the lifeblood of any business.
Sure.
And especially of life coaches.
Yeah.
And you can be the best person helping people through change.
Yep.
But if you can't do that marketing piece and get clients, then you won't be in the coaching business. for long.
Right. So it's like you almost have to spend more time thinking about the marketing stuff.
Right.
Than actually the therapeutic stuff or the helpful
Yes.
coaching stuff.
You actually need to be a better marketer than maybe even a life coach to be successful.
Yeah.
Now, you still have to be able to help people change.
Sure.
But if you don't have that marketing piece done,
Yeah.
or you don't know how to do it,
Yeah. Now, seminars are a favorite of life coaches, or
Absolutely.
webinars.
webinars are big.
They're excellent. But,
Absolutely.
But then, it seems like everything's a lot harder than it used to be, because those webinars, 100 people say they're coming and then only 4 show up.
Right.
Seminars, live seminars, same thing. 20 people say they're coming and only 4 show up.
Absolutely, yes.
And so you as a life coach are going to have to be able to deal with that kind of challenge.
I am dealing with that challenge, sure.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. It's something that you have to do continuously on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. But I know that if you develop close relationships, then the word of mouth piece does help.
Oh, sure.
Kicks in.
Yes.
And I know you're a good networker. You get along
Yes.
well, and you kind of like to go out to events and people.
Absolutely.
You're a likable guy.
Yes.
That's a good place to begin.
Thank you, Lynn.
Right?
I appreciate
And
that.
I know that also that you are a caring person. I know you
Yes.
personally. So those kinds of qualities are extremely important.
Yes.
Just to get things started. But then after that, to sustain the relationship, you really have to have insight. Real depth.
You have to help people change.
Yeah.
And you have to keep people accountable. You can't let them get off by, I just didn't have time to do the assignments.
That's a tough thing to
You have
do.
to hold people's feet to the fire.
Well, Ed Green, I want to congratulate you for making that formal commitment
Yes.
to an
Very
important
excited.
career. I know you're going to affect many, many people for the better and in a positive
Absolutely.
way. And I'm so glad you came here to talk about it. It's almost like
Thank
a
you, Lynn.
birth of one sort or another. So
It
thank you
is.
so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you, Lynn.
Our pleasure to have you. Ed Green, I'm Lynn
All right.
Hinderrocker with WOWBIZ Nebraska. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching. You know, WOWBIZ Nebraska is brought to you by Curzon Promotional Graphics. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. I want to take just a second and talk to you a little bit about branding. And of course, branding has to do with imagery and first impressions. Now, when you're looking at that area, it's more important than ever because we have so much stuff coming at us in this internet era. It's just overwhelming. So a strong, clear brand, usually it's graphical, it's visual, it's unusual. I want to emphasize that, something a little bit novel. An unusual execution of a graphic idea. Your logo is a good beginning, but typically you can do more than that. Now, if you're agreeing with me up to this point, all right, you get what I'm saying. I want you to talk to Curzon, that's C-U-R-Z-O-N, Curzon Promotional Graphics in the Omaha, Nebraska area, because they have a great graphics department and they understand the importance of branding. Branding exists to set you apart. Now, don't be naive, okay? Don't say, oh, well, we're different, we're unique, we're better, we do this, we're really great, everybody knows us. That's not how it works. You're not known, you're not differentiated, you don't stand out. I hate to tell you that, but this is a constant problem, even with giant brands. We have millions to spend on advertising and events and so on. So you have to have a newly revitalized logo or brand or hook or image or something that says, wow, right? Wow, right? So Curzon Promotional Graphics is the first place you should look up. They have brought this show to you. Of course, the graphics behind me are a great example of their beautiful, meticulous, high-resolution work. It's portable and it's affordable, by the way, so you don't have to go overseas to utilize this kind of graphics. Keep them in mind. Tell them Lynn Hinderrocker sent you from WOWBIZ. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Curzon Promotional Graphics. Now, I want to talk to you about something that I run into as a consultant. Happens all the time. People look at me and say, how do I go to the next level? How do I take my company? We're already working, we're operating, we make profits, we have a payroll, you know, we have a facility, we have customers. But I just don't feel, Lynn, that we're working at the next level. There's some next level we need to get to. And I don't know how to get to. I don't even know what it really looks like. I don't even know what I'm really talking about. This is what I hear people ask me all the time. So they don't know what they're really trying to do or what it would look like if they accomplished it. I want to talk to you right now about three things that will take your company to the next level. And they're achievable, you can have them, but you can't continue doing things the way that you've been doing them if you want to go to that level. So I want to back up, and I'm going to give you a little story. You'll get this, you'll understand, and then we'll proceed forward with the details. Now, when I was a kid, young kid, I was on the farm, and probably 5, 6 years of age. Every Saturday morning, my mother baked cookies. All right, it was a wonderful thing, and of course the smell of fresh cookies, and she had made special cookies, by the way. She called them cowboy cookies because I loved being a cowboy. That's what I was, a little boy. That was our hero, be a cowboy. So she made raisin cookies and called them. She's brilliant. It's a brilliant branding thing. She called them cowboy cookies. It couldn't be better or more important to me. Anyway, so I would be watching TV, and Saturday mornings, that's what all little kids did back in those days. And she'd make the cookies out in the kitchen. She'd bring the cookie jar out, and they'd cool off, and she'd put them in the cookie jar, right? Then she'd go upstairs and take care of whatever mothers took care of at that point, probably some laundry and so on. Well, anyway, here's what I would do. I would sneak out into the kitchen. I did this every Saturday morning without fail. And the problem was that the cookie jar was clear back against the wall, and I wasn't tall enough to actually, reach the cookie jar and get some fresh, warm cookies. So I went down into the foyer area where there was a three-legged stool. Now, my grandpa had made a three-legged stool for me. It was just a little stubby little stool, kind of sat up maybe 8 inches, something like that. And I would go grab the stool, and I would bring it into the kitchen. I'm looking around furtively, and I'd set it right there in front of the counter, climb up on that stool, three-legged stool now, and I'd be up, right? I'd be up higher. I'm working at a higher level. I'm at the counter, and I could reach across, and I could grab that cookie jar, pull it towards me, get in there, get 2, 3 cookies, push it back. You know the routine, right? Get down. Take that little stool, put it back in the foyer. sit there in front of the TV, black and white TV, Lone Ranger, Roy Rogers, and eat my little cowboy cookies. Now the interesting thing was it took the 3 legs of this little stool to bring me up to a higher level where everything looked achievable. I could do things at that higher level, 8 inches high. I could do things, man. I could get my goal, right? I could achieve my goal. I could pull it out, and it was a tasty reward. So it's kind of a simplistic little story, but it really explains what companies want to do. This is what they really want to do. They want somebody to create a little stool for them with 3 legs that they can climb up on to get a much higher perspective of what life is like, what business opportunities exist, what entrepreneurial situations exist, and partnerships and new products and innovations, and they're doing stuff over there, and shouldn't we be doing stuff like that? None of that was available to them at this slightly lower level. So the question then becomes, what are the legs that create the stool, that uphold the stool? What are the legs that make it sturdy, right? So, I'm going to take a little sip here as I try to recount each one of these. Excuse me. So, the first one, the first leg on the stool is vision. I'm going to come back to this. Vision, you wouldn't believe. Many companies, they don't have the vision. Secondly, fusion. Thirdly, passion. So vision, fusion, and passion are the 3 elements, are the little support mechanisms that allow you to get up higher, to see what's possible, to get things done, and to actually accomplish those objectives that you've kind of thought about, dreamt about, but you've never gotten your cookies the way you're going to be able to get them right now. So let's talk about this very briefly. What 3 things, or what do those 3 words have in common? Vision, fusion, and passion, huh? Think about this for just a second. Think about that. The last 3 letters of all 3, I-O-N. Kind of interesting, all 3 of those words. Ions. What is an ion? It's an energized particle that floats through the air very, very rapidly, and it's because the reason it's moving so rapidly, it's looking for its counterpart. It's looking to be completed. It's incomplete. That's what an ion is doing in the air right now all around us. Looking for something to complement it, to finish it, to make it complete. Like they say in Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise said, "You complete me." you remember that? All right, so that's what the ions are looking for. And when I talk to companies, deep in their hearts, this is what it's all about. They're looking for completion. No matter how well it's going, they don't feel like it's rounded, it's full, it's complete at all. So anyway, if you run a company, you got to have a vision. You got to be able to talk about it. You got to be able to articulate it. It can't be some stupid plaque on the wall. It's got to change from time to time, but not too much. It's got to be an overarching thing. Like John F. Kennedy in 1962, best vision I've ever heard of. He said, "Hey, we're behind. Within 1 year, we're going to put a man on the moon." Like it or not, that's what's going to happen, right? And people felt energized. They said, "Can we really do this? Are you kidding me? This is very difficult, right?" Now, this is the interesting thing about the space race. I'm going to tell you something nobody knows. The reason why, as you might recall, some of you are older, recall that the Russians were ahead of the Americans at that time. We were trying to catch up with Sputnik, etc. Now, throughout the last 5 decades, 50 years at least, what we focus on in our space race is technology. We talk a lot about the latest rocket and propulsion and all this stuff, and we can never seem to get there. So John F. Kennedy had a tremendous vision about the moon, the moon and the space race and so on. The Russians were ahead of us, and the reason they were ahead of us because they had a philosophy. They had an overarching big idea, conceptual thing. They weren't focusing on technology. So it's very interesting. They had a stronger vision than we had. Now, you've got to be able to articulate that vision, but that's not enough. You've got to innovate. In order to innovate, the easiest way to innovate, only 8% of companies out there right now are in fact innovating, but 80% of them say, "We got to come up with something." It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing discrepancy. The best way to innovate is fusion. That's the second word that I mentioned to you here. The notion of pulling disparate things together. Now you say, well, I don't know anything about fusion. How in the world would I do that? Well, we all have these, don't we? This is the most incredible example of fusion, and it's right at our fingertips every day. Remember, only 20 years ago, we were talking to people on landlines, you know, and we had the phones. Right now we have a phone with a camera, a video camera, a compass, all kinds of incredible things, all fused into one tool. So that can be done. And by the way, fusion also applies to organization. You have organizational fusion. You can have a mental fusion. You can have media fusions, huge concepts. So fusion is the way to get from here to there, to achieve your vision. Then finally is the passion. Now people talk about passion. It's an interesting thing. Some people say, well, I'm not expressive, and I'm not that kind of a guy or gal, I don't really care about passion. If you have a sense of conviction about what you're doing, and let's hope that we all have a sense of conviction about what we're trying to do every day, right? If you have a sense that you are going somewhere, doesn't matter what obstacles emerge, you're going to get from here to there. You have an overarching feeling about your connection with an idea, you have passion. And the passion is fuel. So if you can articulate a vision, if you can innovate utilizing this fusion principle that I've already mentioned to you, then you have every right to feel like, let go, do what you're capable of doing, be who you're capable of being, and you can link your identity then to this evolving company that you're a part of, right? It all feeds into this kind of transcendent sense that there is more there. There is more there for you, and there is more there for the company that you work with. So those three things, those are the legs on the stubby little stool that if you climb on top of, you can raise your entire company up to the next level. It's an amazing feeling, and all of a sudden, now here's the big question. I'm going to end today asking you this question. What are your cookies? What's in your cookie jar? Right? If you finally get up here and you look around and you say, I'm going to get this, and you pull this over and you open it, what's there for you? Right? If you ask a lot of leaders of companies, they cannot answer that question. They cannot really tell you other than profits and bonuses and stuff like that. What's in the cookie jar? What's in the cookie jar? And why does it smell so good to you? This is where we get into some really heavy personal issues insofar as how we link our identity to the company and the culture that we're a part of, right? And whether or not we feel we deserve the cookies. You wouldn't believe the number of CEOs and companies and presidents of companies that don't actually feel that those cookies are there. They don't even want to go for the cookies because if they lift the lid of the cookie jar, they're not sure there'll be anything in there. So why climb up on the stool? This is the kind of neuroses that senior leaders of major companies are experiencing. We don't know that. They wouldn't want you to know that, but this is exactly what's happening. And that is the barrier to growth that we sense is all around us. So we can unleash, we can step up, we can actually think higher, think broader, achieve our goals, be confident the cookies are there in the jar, and take everything to the next level. There is an answer to that question. We're going to uncover answers to questions like that right here on WOWBIZ Nebraska almost every week. So I want you to tune in on a regular basis. Tell everybody about WOWBIZ Nebraska. You're going to hear stuff here you never hear anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. Check out WOWBIZ Growth Dynamics on the web, and make sure that you check out this particular station as often as possible. We'll have something fresh for you next time. Vision, fusion, and passion. Thank you so much.